So in case you didn't know, Tony Parker has kind of fallen off this season. His ability to beat guys off the dribble, and even if he does do that, which doesn't happen often, it's not like he's a threat to score anymore. And given that Kawhi Leonard has also really elevated himself as a ball-dominant player, it's awesome that Patty Mills has been so good for the San Antonio Spurs, and he's our first underrated player of the day at the point guard position this season. Patty is putting up 11.5 points a game, 3 assists, 2 rebounds, shooting 49% from the field as well as 43% from 3. And that 3-point shot has been super effective for him this season. He's had multiple games of over 3 a game, and he's only had about a couple where he actually hasn't hit an outside shot at all. So the spacing and the shooting that he is providing for San Antonio, allowing LaMarcus Aldridge as well as Kawhi Leonard to go to work, has been awesome. He fits in beautifully because the Spurs have always known how to get outside shooters open. But Patty can also dictate a little bit of offense himself to score within the pick and roll, a lot of the times with a pull-up mid-range jumper. So it's not like if he has the ball in his hand, he's just a non-factor. He can actually create a bit, and his passing has actually been a little better than you thought it was too. He's actually averaging 5 assists per game in his last 5. Patty Mills is able to force the issue offensively a bit, but he's also very good as an outside shooter and a big shot maker for the San Antonio Spurs this season, and he is our underrated point guard of this year. A couple of honorable mentions would be Matthew Dellavedova, whose outside shooting and defense has been exactly what the Bucks wanted. Tim Frazier was a bit better offensively than we all probably expected, with Drew Holiday being out for the Pelicans. And also, Corey Joseph still remains one player that I really want to see starting on some team in the NBA. And by the way, before I dive into this, I want to acknowledge now that Lou Williams as well as Nick Young have been very good this season, but this is not a most improved video, this is an underrated video, so I'm just going to say that now before Laker fans jump on me in the comments section. Next up, the shooting guard spot. If you haven't been paying attention to the Brooklyn Nets, I'm not going to blame you, but Sean Kilpatrick has actually been awesome, putting up 17 points per game, 5 rebounds. The efficiency isn't awesome with 43% as well as 35% from 3, but we have to remember, given that the team he's on, it's actually kind of impressive of what he's doing. And actually, in his last 5 games, he's more efficient at 46% from the field as well as 37 from 3. But he's also putting up 23 points and 6 rebounds, so Kilpatrick is doing some impressive stuff given that the team around him does not have a lot of guys that the defense has to care about. And he's a shorter player, he's only 6'4", but at 220 pounds, he's more than willing to attack inside the paint where he can finish. He's also attempting 5 free throws a game, so he actually is getting to the line quite a bit, and he's also very confident in his 3-point shot to where if he uses a pick and roll and you have to get around the screen, in that one moment that you're not on him, he will rise up for a 3-pointer. He's also shown ability to move off ball to get open shots, and that's testament to Kenny Atkinson and the job that he's done with the Nets. So I would love to see Sean Kilpatrick on a team where the defense actually has to care about multiple guys, because I think he could be a solid 15 to 16 point scorer and actually do it efficiently while also getting to the free throw line maybe 2 or 3 times a game. Some honorable mentions here would be one, CJ Miles, who has been very efficient as a shooter for the Indiana Pacers, and I'm still waiting on him to start over Monte Ellis. There's also been Ian Clark, who has been a nice shooter off the bench for the Golden State Warriors. Amon Shumpert is actually hitting his 3-pointers for the Cleveland Cavaliers to go along with his defense and athleticism. And Courtney Lee has done what the Knicks wanted him to do. He's putting up an efficient about 10 points per game. He's hitting his 3-pointers, and he's still a good defensive player, so shout out to Courtney. Also, Norman Powell deserves more minutes on the Raptors. He plays 25 minutes one game, he plays 6 the next. It's really weird. Now for the Portland Trailblazers, the small forward spot is going to be Maurice Harkless or Mo Harkless. 13 points, 5 rebounds, 50% from the field, 37% from 3. He's made a lot of strides this season offensively, as he is now a guy who the defense actually has to care about when he's standing along the perimeter, because that was the one knock on his game, was you could just leave him open. He was never an outside threat. Besides that, his willingness to attack the paint is also pretty good. He's not someone who's you're just going to give the ball to and let him go to work one-on-one, but he's not afraid to cut, and if he ends up on a mismatch, he'll gladly drive inside. And then, of course, his calling card has always been his defense. At 6'9", 220 pounds, he can defend multiple positions. If he ends up on a point guard, he has the athleticism and the quickness to stay in front of him. He can definitely do the same thing for a shooting guard or a small forward if he has to defend them off ball, or if he has to defend them with the ball in their hands. And if he also ends up on someone bigger than him, given that he is 6'9" and pretty strong, he's not really a lost cause there as well. Of course, the one moment he had was when he played some pretty damn good defense on Klay Thompson in the postseason. So Mo Harkless, a very good defender. He's made a lot of strides offensively. He's been a really big addition for the Portland Trailblazers. I was very close to giving this to Otto Porter because he's also a quality defensive player who can shoot from everywhere. But when I have two guys that are this close, I'm going to give it to the guy whose team has a bit of a better record, but I could have definitely given this to Otto Porter as well. Terrence Ross has been putting up an efficient 10 points per game for the Raptors. He can create his own shot off the bench as well as hit a three-pointer, which is huge. Consistency was always the one question with him. And Sam Decker has given the Rockets some nice athleticism, size, and he's also been able to give them another three-point shooter for James Harden to kick out to. Now, JaMychal Green of the Memphis Grizzlies, he's kind of the savior to me, honestly. Alright, he's not that good, but he's been contributing 10 points, 8 rebounds, 47% from the field. JaMychal gives them athleticism, which they desperately needed to be able to defend some of the quicker power forwards in today's NBA. He can go out on the perimeter and be fine. He can also jet up and down the floor, which allows them to just, one, be more exciting, but two, it's always good when you have somebody who can just outrun the defense. Zach Randolph, as effective as he is, that is not his calling card at all. So JaMychal has given the Grizzlies more of a spark, but he's also providing them with some spacing. He's shooting about 47% from mid-range. So if Marc Gasol or Zach Randolph are posting up down low, JaMychal can provide spacing. If you leave him open to double team, they can kick it out to him, and he can actually knock down mid-range jumpers. His three-pointer was there at the beginning of the season. It has since fallen off. If he can get to around respectable from outside, then he becomes a real huge piece for the Memphis Grizzlies. But even then, his defense, athleticism, and spacing have been awesome for these guys, and he's definitely on my favorite player list. Some other options here could have been James Johnson, who his offensive game has stepped up while he was always a defender. Richaun Holmes remains Philadelphia 76er fans' third favorite player, number 2 being Ben Simmons, and he's never even played, and then number 1 is Joel Embiid, of course. And shout out to Mike Muscala for being a nice shooter off the bench for the Atlanta Hawks. And now finally the center position, Mason Plumlee, and I finally got his name right. Plumlee is good at pretty much everything. 10 points per game while also shooting nearly 70% from inside the paint. So if he's open on a pick and roll, or if he's just able to catch a little dump-off pass from Damian Lillard, he can finish down low. He's a pretty strong guy, so he's not afraid to mix it up inside. 7 rebounds a game is not amazing, but at the same time it's respectable. And while he's not lights out defensively, he's definitely not the problem for them being one of the worst defensive teams in the NBA. But the big thing with Plumlee is his playmaking. He averages 5 assists per game. Some of it comes in the pick and roll, very similar to Draymond Green, where he'll be the roll man and then somebody will be open because they have to bring help defense. He kicks it out to them. They're able to knock it down. And this could give Portland a lot of creativity offensively, because you could have Damian Lillard or CJ McCollum running across screens and then Plumlee could kick it out to him. So Plumlee, he's a nice quality all-around center combined with his very good playmaking ability. I was very close to giving this to Cody Zeller because his defense and athleticism is very good at the center position, but Plumlee does more for you offensively. Robin Lopez has been awesome on the defensive side of the floor for the Bulls, which is not a surprise. And it seems Chicago has definitely won the Derrick Rose trade. And also shout out to Kelly Olynyk for being a matchup problem because he can hit threes as a 7-footer. Point guard position, Patty Mills with his shooting, Sean Kilpatrick being a surprise for the Nets, Mo Harkless' offensive game matching his defensive one, JaMychal Green giving the Grizzlies the versatility that they desperately needed in today's NBA, and then Mason Plumlee for having a really good passing game surrounded by a nice all-around game.